He woke at 2:17 to silence. Not peaceful. Wrong. The fire was out, the room was cold, and the window fogged, but not from the inside. From the outside, as if someone had pressed their face against the glass. He sat up slowly, heart thudding. The cabin was dark. The clock ticked once, twice, then stopped. And then a breath, not his, long, slow, dragged through the air like cloth over stone. From the other side of the wall, outside, Daniel grabbed his flashlight, peered through the window. Nothing, just trees, snow-dusted ground, shadows. He opened the door, stepped onto the porch. The air was still, no wind, no sound, but the snow, it was untouched, except for one thing. 20 yards into the tree line, a single set of footprints, leading in, not out, as if something had walked into the woods and never come back. Daniel didn't sleep the rest of the night. He sat by the fire, gun on his lap, eyes locked on the tree line. At dawn, he followed the tracks. They didn't lead far, just deep enough into the woods to where the trees formed a perfect circle. No animal trails, no broken branches, just a ring of pines standing like sentinels. And in the center, a stone, flat, gray, carved with symbols Daniel didn't recognize. And on top, a dead crow, neck twisted, eyes gone, left like an offering. He backed away, ran back to the cabin, locked the door, boarded the windows. But that night, it came closer. He heard it first, a slow, rhythmic tap, like a branch against glass. But it wasn't a branch. It was a knock, 3 times. From the front door, Daniel didn't answer. He watched through a crack in the boards. Nothing. No figure, no shadow. But the doorknob, it turned slowly, then stopped. And from the other side, a whisper, not in English, not in any language he knew, but he understood it. I see you. The next morning, he tried to leave. Car wouldn't start. Battery dead. Phone no signal. Radio static, except for one station, faint, repeating the same phrase in a child's voice. Don't look outside. Don't look outside. Don't look outside. He stayed for 3 days. No power. No heat. Food running low. And every night, the knocking, the whisper, the feeling of eyes on the back of his neck. Then, on the 4th night, he saw it through the window. At the edge of the trees, tall, too tall, 12 feet, maybe more, thin, limbs like snapped branches. No face, just smooth, bark-like skin where features should be. And its arms, they dragged on the ground, long, knotted, ending in fingers too many, too thin, like roots. It didn't move, didn't breathe, just stood, watching. Daniel dropped to the floor, trembling. When he looked again, it was gone. But the next morning, the stone was on his porch, the crow gone, and the symbols, now carved into the door, deep, fresh, as if done by hand or claw. He tried to burn it. Fire wouldn't touch it. He threw it into the creek, found it on his pillow that night. And then the dreams began. Every time he closed his eyes, the forest, the circle of trees, the stone, and it standing in the center, surrounded by others, hundreds, all faceless, all watching. And in the dream, they stepped forward, one by one, into the cabin, closer, closer, until one leaned down and whispered, "You're already inside." Daniel woke screaming. The cabin wasn't his. The walls were wrong. The ceiling too high. The door open to the forest. No road, no car, just trees. Endless. And from the shadows, eyes. Hundreds of them. Glittering. Unblinking. Waiting. He ran. Through the woods. Branches slashing. Roots tripping. No path. No direction. Just the feeling of being herded. Then, a light, a cabin, his cabin. Smoke from the chimney. Lights on. He sobbed, stumbled forward, banged on the door. "Hello, please, let me in." The door opened. And there, him, standing in the doorway, same clothes, same face, but the eyes, black, empty, smiling. "You don't belong here," the other Daniel said. And behind him, the thing in the corner, watching, Daniel turned and ran back into the woods. He never stopped. Search teams found his footprints 2 weeks later. They led in a perfect circle, back to the stone, back to the crow, back to the trees. And at the center, a single boot, mud-caked, laces untied. And beside it, a journal, last entry written in shaky script. "It doesn't take you. It replaces you. And the one who comes back isn't the one who left." The search was called off. The cabin was boarded. But locals say on still nights, when the wind dies and the stars vanish behind clouds, if you walk near Black Spruce Road, you'll hear knocking from inside the trees. And if you look, just for a second, you'll see them standing between the pines, tall, thin, faceless, watching, waiting, because the woods don't hide monsters. They grow them. And once you've been seen, you're never really alone again. So if you hear a knock in the dark, don't answer, don't look. And whatever you do, don't go into the woods, even if you think you see a light, even if you hear your name, because something is always watching, and it knows you're there. He answered the wrong door. It was 2:13 a.m. The kind of hour that doesn't belong to the living. No cars, no wind, no distant sirens, just silence, thick, heavy, like a blanket soaked in cold water. That's when the knocking started. 3 slow, deliberate raps on the front door of the old 2-story house on Hemlock Lane in the quiet town of Ashwick, Pennsylvania. A place where porches creaked under the weight of time and the trees leaned inward as if trying to listen. Inside, Marcus Vale stirred. He wasn't a light sleeper. Years of graveyard shifts at the steel plant had taught him to rest through noise, through chaos. But this was different. The knocking didn't stop, didn't rush, just 3 knocks. Pause. 3 more, like a heartbeat. Too slow, too steady. Marcus sat up, rubbed his eyes, checked his phone. 2:13. Who the hell? He shuffled down the hall, barefoot, the floorboards cold beneath his feet. The house groaned with every step. He peered through the peephole. Darkness, not the porch light, not the street, just black, as if the lens had been painted over. He hesitated. No one came knocking at 2 a.m. Not in Ashwick, not unless something was wrong. Maybe it was old Mrs. Calloway from next door. Her dog had gotten loose again. Or maybe the new guy down the street, lost after a late shift. He unlatched the chain, turned the deadbolt, opened the door, and there she stood, a woman, dressed in a long, pale nightgown, hair dark, wet, hanging in strands over her face, barefoot, pale as snow. She didn't speak, didn't move, just stared. And then a whisper, so soft he almost missed it. "I'm home." Marcus froze. This wasn't right. He didn't know her, and she wasn't supposed to be here. This was his house. He started to close the door. But she stepped forward. Just 1 step, and the air changed. It turned cold. Not winter cold, not draft. This was deeper, older, like air pulled from a tomb. Her head tilted, too far, too slow. And when she looked up, her eyes were gone. Just smooth skin, no sockets, no lashes, nothing. Marcus stumbled back, slamming the door, chaining it, locking it, heart hammering. He pressed his back against the wall, breath ragged. What the hell was that? He waited. Silence. No more knocking, no footsteps. After 10 minutes, he dared to look through the peephole again. Empty porch, streetlight flickering, leaves swirling, nothing. He exhaled. Hallucination, stress, lack of sleep. He poured himself a glass of water, sat at the kitchen table, tried to calm down. Then, a sound. From the back door, 3 knocks. Slow, steady, just like before. His blood turned to ice. He wasn't imagining it. It was here, in the house. Or had it come in with him? He checked the locks, all secure, windows shut, no signs of forced entry. Then, a whisper from the hallway, "I'm home." Closer, softer, but unmistakable. Marcus grabbed the baseball bat he kept by the bedroom door, moved slowly down the hall. Every floorboard creaked like a warning. The air grew heavier, thicker, and then the bathroom door slightly open, steam rising from the crack. Impossible. He hadn't used the shower. He pushed the door open. The mirror was fogged, but written in the condensation, "I'm home." Below it, a child's handprint. Small, pale, and dripping, not water, something darker. He backed away, ran to the front door, grabbed his keys. But the chain, it was gone. The deadbolt, unlocked. And on the floor, a single wet footprint, leading in, not out. He turned, and she was there, standing at the end of the hall. Same nightgown, same bare feet, but now she wasn't alone. Behind her, a boy, no older than 6, eyes gone too, holding her hand. And behind them, more men, women, children, all barefoot, all pale, all faceless, all whispering, "We're home." Marcus screamed. He bolted for the back door, yanked it open, ran into the yard, through the gate, down the street. Didn't stop until he reached the gas station on Route 7. He banged on the glass. The clerk, a young man named Ray, jumped. "Help me," Marcus gasped. "There's people in my house. They're not real." Ray called the police. Deputy Karen Miles arrived within minutes. They went back to the house. Lights off, door closed. No signs of forced entry, no footprints, no steam, no writing on the mirror. Nothing. Miles searched every room, found nothing. "Are you sure you didn't dream it?" she asked gently. Marcus shook his head. "I saw them. They were in my house. They said, 'I'm home.'" The whisper came from the closet in the hallway. Miles drew her gun, opened the door, empty. But the back wall, it was wrong. Too far back, too dark, like a tunnel. She shined her flashlight. The beam didn't reach the end, and from the darkness, a breath, wet, slow, then a hand, pale, thin, reaching out. Miles slammed the door, sealed it with tape, called for backup. But when the team arrived, the closet was normal. Wall solid. No tunnel, no hand. Just wood. They took Marcus in for evaluation, psych ward, observation. He lasted 2 days. Then, on the 3rd night, he disappeared. No alarm, no forced exit, just gone. Bed empty. Window locked. Only one thing left behind. A note, scrawled on a paper napkin. "I answered the wrong door. Now I have to let them in." Search teams went back to the house. Nothing. No signs of struggle. No footprints. But the closet door, it was open. And inside, the wall was gone, replaced by darkness. And from within, a faint sound, whispers, hundreds of them, all saying, "We're home." And if you stand on Hemlock Lane at 2:13 a.m., when the wind dies and the stars vanish, and you knock on Marcus's door 3 times, slow, steady, you might hear it. The latch, the creak. The voice, soft, wet, "I'm home." And if you look inside, you'll see him standing in the hall, pale, barefoot, eyes gone, smiling. Because he didn't escape, he invited them in. And now, he answers every knock for everyone. So, if you hear knocking at 2:13, don't answer, don't look. And whatever you do, don't open the door, even if it sounds like someone you love. Even if they say they're home, because some doors don't lead out. They lead in. And once you open one, you become the one who answers. Forever. Real footage police never released. It was never supposed to be seen. Not by the public. Not by the families. Not even by the officers who recorded it. And yet somehow it surfaced. A single file. Unmarked. Unnamed. Uploaded at 3:44 a.m. to a forgotten corner of a public archives server in the town of Hollows Creek, West Virginia. No username, no IP trace, just a timestamp. And a video. Duration, 18 minutes, 37 seconds. File name, CCTV, unknown, route 19-2. The footage begins in darkness. Then static, a flicker, and the image resolves. Grainy, green-tinged, night vision. It's a rural stretch of road, 2 lanes surrounded by thick forest. A faded sign reads, Hollows Creek, 8 miles. Timestamp in the corner, 11:17 p.m. No movement, just the sway of tree branches in the wind. Then headlights. A car approaches from the left, slow, steady, a 2008 silver sedan. License plate blurred in the recording, standard procedure. But later, investigators would confirm it belonged to Daniel Reeves, 34, a mechanic from nearby Pine Ridge. He was reported missing the next morning. His wife said he was coming home from a late shift. He never arrived. In the footage, the car slows. Not due to traffic. Not due to weather. There's nothing ahead. But the driver Reeves brakes. Pulls over to the shoulder. The engine cuts. Silence. Then he gets out. Not panicked. Not frantic. Just deliberate. He walks to the edge of the road, stares into the trees, and waits. For nearly 2 minutes, nothing happens. Then, a figure emerges. From between the pines, tall, thin, wearing a long coat, too long dragging in the dirt, its face obscured by shadow. Not from the night, from something else. As if the camera refuses to focus on it. Reeves doesn't run. Doesn't scream. He just watches. The figure stops 10 feet from him. Raises one hand. Not in greeting, in command. And Reeves begins to walk. Backward. Step by step. Into the woods. The camera doesn't follow. But the audio, it does. Footsteps. Crunching leaves. Then, a whisper. Not from Reeves. From the trees, multiple voices. Overlapping. Come in. Stay with us. You're wanted. Reeves's breathing grows shallow. His steps slow. Then, a scream. Short, cut off, like a hand over his mouth. Then silence. The camera remains fixed on the empty road. For 6 minutes. Then, movement. Reeves stumbles back into frame. But he's wrong. His clothes are torn, his face pale, too pale, like he hasn't seen sunlight in years. And his eyes? They don't blink. He walks to the car, opens the driver's door, gets in, starts the engine, drives away. The footage ends. But that's not what made the police seal it. That's not why the file was scrubbed from every backup. Why officers were sworn to silence. Why the deputy who first reviewed it, Karen Miles, resigned the next day, muttering about things that shouldn't be seen. It's what happens after. At 11:53 p.m., 7 minutes after Reeves drives off, another car appears. Sheriff's cruiser. Unit 14, Deputy Ray Teller. He slows, scans the road, pulls over, gets out, looks around, then he sees something on the ground. A phone. Reeves' phone. Teller picks it up, checks it, then he turns, looks into the woods, and he sees it. The figure, still there, standing between the trees, watching. Teller reaches for his radio, but before he can speak, the whisper returns. Louder, closer, come in. Teller freezes. Then he holsters his weapon, walks into the trees, same backward steps, same silence, same cut-off scream. The camera records it all. But again, that's not the worst part. At 12, 18 a.m., another vehicle, an ambulance. EMTs report a call about a stranded motorist. They get out. Search. One finds Teller's hat. Then they hear the whisper. Both men turn, walk into the woods, vanish. The camera keeps rolling. Now, for the next hour, car after car, a state trooper, a tow truck, a couple pulled over to argue. Every time, the same pattern. They arrive. They see something. They walk into the trees. Backward, quiet, gone. By 2-3 a.m., 7 vehicles are parked on the shoulder, engines running, doors open. No one returns. Then, the final entry, a black SUV. No plates. It stops. A man gets out, wearing a long coat, face hidden. He walks to the camera, looks up, and for the first time, the lens focuses. His face is Reeves's, but wrong, stretched, empty, smiling. He reaches up, unscrews the camera, turns it toward the trees, and for the last 30 seconds, it shows what's inside. Not a forest, not a trail, a space, endless, walls of black stone, and rows, hundreds of people standing, facing the camera, all wearing long coats, all pale, all barefoot, all with the same dead eyes. And in the front, Deputy Teller, the EMTs, the trooper, the tow truck driver, all of them smiling as if they've been waiting. And behind them, figures, tall, faceless, watching. Then the screen cuts to black, text appears, white, centered. They're still recording. The file was removed within hours. The server wiped. The camera found the next day, smashed, buried under leaves. But the footage? It spread in whispers, in dark forums, in encrypted messages. People claimed to have seen it. Some said they watched it once. Others said they couldn't stop, played it every night. And then they disappeared. No reports, no searches, just gone. And in their homes, left behind. A single device, phone, laptop, tablet. Screen cracked, battery dead. But if you plug it in, it boots and plays the video from the beginning. Even if you delete it, even if you burn the device, it comes back. Because the footage isn't just a recording, it's a doorway. And every time it's played, it pulls someone else in. So if you find a file online, unmarked, grainy, green tinted, with a timestamp of 11:17 p.m. Don't open it. Don't download it. Don't even look at the thumbnail. Because once you see the man in the long coat, you'll start hearing the whisper in your walls, in your dreams, in the silence between heartbeats. Come in. And when you walk toward it, backward, quiet. You won't scream. You'll smile. Because you'll finally understand you were never meant to escape. You were meant to be seen, to be recorded, to be added to the footage. So the next time someone searches for real footage police never released, they'll find you too, standing in the dark, waiting, smiling. And the cycle continues. They shouldn't have opened it. It was buried beneath the old church on Chapel Ridge in the quiet town of Briars Hollow, West Virginia, a place where the mist never quite lifted and the trees leaned too close to the road as if eavesdropping on every whispered secret. The church had stood for over a century. Built in 1843 by a fire and brimstone preacher named Elias Crow, it was abandoned by 1972 after the last congregation vanished mid-sermon. No bodies, no notes, just empty pews, Bibles left open, and a single word scrawled in blood across the pulpit. It's awake. For decades, the building stood untouched. Boarded windows, sagging roof, a warning spray-painted across the door, "Do not enter." But in late October, a crew arrived. Historical preservation, funded by the state, tasked with restoring old landmarks before they crumbled into dust. Their leader, Daniel Reeves, was a structural engineer. Practical, logical, A man who believed in beams, not beliefs. This place is just wood and time, he said, stepping over the threshold on a cold gray morning. Nothing supernatural about rot. With him were three others. Lena Pike, a young historian with a camera always around her neck. Ray Teller, a quiet electrician who never spoke unless spoken to. And Karen Miles, the team's medic ex-military. Sharp eyes, sharper instincts. They began in the basement, a forgotten space sealed behind a rusted iron door. The hinges screamed when they forced it open. Dust rained down. The air that rushed out was thick, not musty, not moldy, alive. Like breathing in something that had been waiting. The room was small. Stone walls, dirt floor, no windows. And in the center, a box, not wood, not metal, something darker. Like petrified wood fused with bone. 6 feet long, 2 feet wide, carved with symbols no one recognized, and sealed with a chain-thick, blackened links wrapped 7 times around it. At the top, a single word, etched deep. Never. Lena stepped forward, camera clicking. This wasn't on any blueprint, she said. It's not supposed to be here. Daniel knelt, ran a gloved hand over the surface. Looks like it's been here a long time. Karen crossed her arms. Then maybe we should leave it. Ray said nothing, just stared. But Daniel was already pulling out tools. We're documenting everything, he said. This is part of the site. We open it. Karen's voice tightened. Daniel, that word isn't a suggestion. It's a warning, Ray said, finally, from people who knew. Daniel laughed. And I'm sure they were perfectly rational. He cut the chain, 1 link at a time. The metal didn't break. It snapped, like dry twigs. And with the last link severed, the box breathed, a low, shuddering exhale from within. The air turned cold. Not winter cold. Dead cold. Lena's camera flashed once, twice, then died. The battery drained in seconds. Ray backed toward the door. We need to leave. Now. But Daniel was already lifting the lid. It opened slowly. Too slowly, as if resisting. Inside, not a body. Not bones, just cloth. Black. Tattered, folded neatly, and beneath it, a book. Leather-bound. Pages yellowed. The cover bore no title. Daniel reached for it. Karen grabbed his arm. Don't. But he pulled free. Opened it. The first page read, He dreams beneath. If you wake him, the sky will forget how to hold light. Below it, a sketch. A face, too wide. Eyes too many. Mouth stitched shut. And beneath that, do not speak his name. Daniel flipped to the next page. Blank. Next, blank. Until page 44, a single sentence. You have already spoken it. The lights in the basement flickered, then died. Only their headlamps remained. And in the sudden darkness, a sound. From the box, a whisper, not from the book. From inside the cloth, thank you, they ran up the stairs, through the church, out into the cold afternoon. They sealed the door behind them, called for backup, demanded the site be quarantined, but it was too late. That night, Lena woke to knocking. Not at her door. From under her bed, she looked. The floorboards were moving, bulging, as if something was pushing up from below. And from the gap, a hand, pale, thin, fingers too long. She screamed, ran to the bathroom, locked the door, turned on the light, and in the mirror, she wasn't alone. Behind her, a figure, tall, dressed in black cloth, face stitched shut, smiling with its eyes. She turned, nothing. But the mirror still showed it, watching, waiting. She smashed it, fled the house, never came back. Ray was next. He lived in a trailer at the edge of town. At 3:17 a.m., his power went out. Phone died. Radio static. Then, a voice. From the walls, you let me in. He grabbed his rifle, fired at the wall. Plaster burst. Dust fell. And from the hole, a thread, black, thick, like the ones from the cloth. It moved, crawled. Toward him, he ran outside, into the woods. Search teams found his body 3 days later, hanging from a tree. Not by rope, by threads, wrapped around his neck, wrists, ankles. His eyes gone, replaced with black cloth, stitched shut. Daniel refused to believe it. It's coincidence, he said, pacing his living room. Stress, grief, mass hysteria. But then the book appeared. On his coffee table, he hadn't taken it, hadn't seen it since the church. Yet there it was, open to a new page. You called me, now I call you. That night, he dreamed of the box, of the cloth unfolding, of something rising, not walking, unfolding like a flower made of shadow and bone. And in the dream, it spoke, not in words, in names, his mother's, his sister's, his first love, names it shouldn't know. And when he woke, his phone was ringing. Unknown number. He answered. Silence. Then, his own voice, whispering, I'm in the walls. He tore the house apart, tore down drywall, cut into the floor, found nothing. But the voice kept coming, from the vents, from the pipes, from his head. And then, the knocking. Every night, from every wall, 3 knocks. Pause. 3 more. Like a heartbeat, like a countdown. Karen was the last. She'd left town, drove to Oregon, changed her name. But on the 7th night after the box was opened, she woke in a room she didn't recognize. Stone walls, dirt floor, the box open, the cloth gone, and above her, a crack in the ceiling, not rock, sky. But wrong. No stars, no moon, just endless black. And from it, a face, huge, stitched, smiling, and a whisper. They shouldn't have opened it. Then, silence. The file was recovered weeks later. A security camera from the church basement. It showed everything. The chain breaking, the box breathing, the book opening, and in the final frame, the cloth moving, crawling, like it was alive. And beneath it, something waking. The footage was classified, buried. But those who saw it, they never slept again. Because the truth wasn't in the box. It was in what came after. And it's still out there. In the walls. In the dark. In the silence between breaths. Waiting. Because once you open the wrong door, you don't close it. You become part of what's on the other side. So if you hear knocking at 317A, if your lights flicker for no reason, if you find a book with no title, don't open it. Don't read it. Don't even touch it. Because some things were buried for a reason. And the moment you lift the lid, you become the offering, not the explorer, not the hero, just another voice in the dark, whispering too late. They shouldn't have opened it. She vanished without a trace. It was a cold November evening in the quiet town of Black Hollow, nestled deep in the pine-covered hills of northern Idaho. The kind of place where everyone knows your name, where porch lights stay on long after dark just to keep the shadows at bay. The air carried the scent of damp earth and wood smoke, and the wind whispered through the trees like secrets passed from one generation to the next. Before we begin, tell me, where are you listening from and what time is it there? That night, the sky was overcast, thick with clouds that refused to let even a sliver of moonlight through. The streets were nearly empty, only a few cars passed by, their headlights cutting brief tunnels through the fog. Most folks were already indoors, tucked beneath warm quilts, unaware that something terrible was about to unfold. At 8:47 p.m., Emily Carter left the local diner, the Rusty Spoon, after finishing her shift as a waitress. She was 23 years old, with auburn hair that fell just past her shoulders and a quiet smile that made people feel at ease. She wore a navy blue coat, her favorite pair of brown boots, and carried a small tote bag slung over her shoulder inside, a novel she'd been reading, a pack of gum, and her phone. She waved goodbye to Martha, the night manager, who locked the door behind her. "Drive safe, hun," Martha called out. "Weather's turning nasty." Emily smiled, pulling her coat tighter. "I'll be fine. Only a 10-minute walk." And so, she stepped into the night. The walk home should have taken no more than 15 minutes. Her apartment was on the edge of town near the old rail trail that cut through the woods behind the abandoned paper mill. She'd walked it 100 times before, sometimes at night, sometimes in the rain. Nothing had ever happened until that night. The first sign that something was wrong came at 9:15 p.m. when Emily's roommate, Daniel Reeves, noticed her phone had gone straight to voicemail. They had plans to watch a movie together. He tried calling again. No answer. He sent a text. "You okay? Movie's starting." No reply. By 9:40, Daniel was pacing the living room. Emily wasn't one to ignore messages, not without a reason. He called the diner. Martha confirmed she'd left on time. He checked the security camera footage from the diner's back door. It showed Emily stepping out, glancing left and right, then walking down the sidewalk toward the trail. The timestamp read 8:48 p.m. Then nothing. No footage from any other cameras picked her up. No sightings, no calls, no texts. Daniel called the police at 10:03 p.m. Deputy Carl Henshaw arrived within 10 minutes. A tall man in his late 50s, with a weathered face and a voice that carried both kindness and authority, he listened carefully as Daniel explained. He reviewed the footage, asked about Emily's routine, her relationships, any recent stress. Daniel said she'd been in good spirits, maybe a little tired, but nothing unusual. They walked the route together, flashlights cutting through the fog. The trail was muddy, leaves slick with dew. Henshaw called out her name several times. Only silence answered. At the edge of the woods, near the rusted tracks of the old mill, they found something. A single boot, brown, worn at the heel, Emily's size. It lay just off the path, half buried in the leaves. No sign of struggle, no blood, no other belongings. Just the boot abandoned, as if she'd stepped out of it and kept walking barefoot into the trees. Henshaw radioed for backup. Search teams were assembled by midnight. Volunteers from the town, neighbors, co-workers, even strangers, grabbed flashlights, dogs, and thermal scanners. They combed the woods, the creek beds, the old mill building. They called her name until their voices grew hoarse. Nothing. The next morning, the entire county was on edge. Flyers with Emily's photo were taped to every lamppost, gas station, and grocery store window. Her face, soft, freckled, eyes bright with life, stared out from the pages of the local newspaper. "Have you seen this woman?" the headline read. But no one had. Not at the gas station on Route 9, not at the bus stop in town, not at the hospital, the shelters, or the interstate rest areas. Emily Carter had vanished. As the days passed, the search expanded. Helicopters scanned the treetops, drones hovered over the dense forest. Canine units tracked scent trails that always seemed to end in circles, as if whatever Emily had followed or whatever had taken her had doubled back, confused the trail on purpose. Then, on the fifth night, something strange happened. One of the search volunteers, an elderly man named Frank Dobbs, claimed he saw a figure standing at the edge of the woods near the mill. It was past midnight. He'd been checking trail markers when he noticed movement through the trees. "A woman," he said, wearing a blue coat, long hair, standing perfectly still. He called out. No answer. When he approached, the figure turned and walked deeper into the forest. Frank followed, but the underbrush was thick, and soon he lost sight of her. He found no footprints, no broken branches, nothing to suggest anyone had passed through. Still, he was certain it was her, he whispered to Deputy Henshaw the next morning. "I know it was." The deputy didn't dismiss him. Frank wasn't the type to imagine things. He'd lived in Black Hollow his whole life, knew every inch of those woods. And then 3 days later, another sighting. This time, it was a teenager biking home from a friend's house. He said he saw someone standing in the middle of the road just past the old railroad crossing. She was barefoot, wearing only a thin dress, even though the temperature had dropped below freezing. When he shone his bike light on her, She turned slowly, her face pale, eyes hollow, and pointed toward the trees. He pedaled away as fast as he could. When police arrived, they found tire tracks, bike skid marks, and a single footprint in the mud. Barefoot, small, female, but no one else. The town began to change. People stopped walking alone at night. Parents called their children home before dusk. Some said they heard whispers in the wind when the fog rolled in. Others claimed their dogs refused to go near the trail, growling at nothing, tails tucked between their legs. And then on the 13th day, Emily's phone was found, not far from where the boot had been discovered. It lay at the base of an old pine tree, half buried in moss. The screen was cracked, the battery dead. But when technicians revived it, they found something chilling. The last photo taken was not of Emily. It was a blurry image, dark, grainy, of a narrow dirt path winding through dense trees. The timestamp read 9:02 p.m. on the night she disappeared. Impossible. Her phone had been off the grid since 8:50. No signal, no GPS. Yet the photo existed. And in the background, barely visible, was a figure. Tall, thin, standing perfectly still between two trees. Its face was obscured, but its arms were unnaturally long, hanging past its knees. And its head, it tilted slightly, as if watching the person who had taken the photo. The image was never released to the public. Authorities called it a glitch, a corrupted file, but those who saw it, Deputy Henshaw, the techs, Daniel, never spoke of it again. Not in detail. They burned the phone. Still, the rumors grew. Older residents of Black Hollow began telling stories, ones they'd never shared before. Tales of the Hollow Man, a presence said to dwell in the woods long before the town was built. A watcher, a taker. It didn't kill, it didn't attack. It simply waited. And when someone walked the trail at the wrong time, with their mind distracted, their heart heavy, it called them, not with sound, but with silence, with stillness. Some said it fed on loneliness. Others believed it collected souls who no longer belonged. And then, one winter evening, nearly 6 months later, Daniel received a letter. No return address. Postmarked from a town over 200 miles away. Inside was a single sheet of paper, yellowed, brittle, as if it had been stored for years. The handwriting was shaky, uneven. Daniel, it read, I'm sorry I didn't say goodbye. I hear it calling. It's not loud, it's not angry, it's just there. Like a song I've always known, I think I was meant to follow. Don't look for me. I'm not lost. I'm found. And beneath it, a small sketch. A path, trees, and at the end, two figures, hand in hand, one small, one tall. The letter was never tested for fingerprints. Daniel burned it in his fireplace that same night. To this day, the trail remains. The woods stand silent. And every November, when the fog rolls in and the wind carries the scent of pine and decay, people say you can see her Emily standing at the edge of the trees, barefoot, coat flapping in the breeze, waiting not to come back. But to be followed, never go in that house. It began with a whisper, not the kind carried on the wind. No, this was different. This whisper came from the mouths of children, passed from one backyard game to another, spoken in hushed tones beneath the flicker of porch lights on summer evenings. Never go in that house. The house stood at the end of Sycamore Street in the quiet town of Cedar Ridge, West Virginia, a place where time moved slow and secrets were buried deep beneath layers of coal dust and mountain silence. It was a two-story Victorian, once proud, now crumbling. Paint peeled like dead skin from its wooden siding, windows, shattered or boarded, stared out like hollow eyes. The porch sagged under the weight of decades, and the iron gate at the front creaked with every gust of wind, a sound like bones dragging across stone. Locals called it the Holloway House. No one remembered exactly who lived there first. Some said a doctor. Others claimed it was a preacher who lost his faith and his mind after his wife and daughter vanished one winter night. Whatever the truth, the house had stood empty for years, decades even. But it wasn't empty. Not really. And that's what the children knew. They'd dare each other to touch the gate. To run up the steps and knock just once, then sprint away, hearts pounding, laughter turning to screams. Most never made it past the yard. Something about the air around the house felt thick, heavy, like breathing through wet cloth. Birds didn't sing near it, squirrels didn't climb its trees. Even the weeds grew in crooked, as if afraid to stand too tall. Then, in late September, a family moved in. Not from the town, outsiders, James and Lila Turner and their 11-year-old son, Noah. They came from the city, somewhere in Ohio, no one was sure exactly where, looking for a fresh start, a quiet life, a home with space and history. The price was unbelievably low. Too low. But the real estate agent, a nervous man named Dale, avoided eye contact when asked why. "It just needed the right people," he said, forcing a smile. "And you seem perfect." They should have listened to the silence that followed. The first night, they heard the knocking, not at the door. Inside the walls, a slow, rhythmic tapping like fingers dragging across wood. It started just after midnight. Noah was the first to hear it. He sat up in bed, heart thudding, convinced someone was in the house. He called for his parents. James grabbed the baseball bat he kept by the bedroom door just in case and checked every room. Nothing. No one. All doors and windows were locked. Lila laughed it off. "Old houses make noises," she said, kissing Noah's forehead. "Just the pipes, or the wind." But the next night, the knocking came again. Louder, closer. And this time, it was answered from upstairs. A child's voice, singing, a nursery rhyme, off-key, slow. "Rockabye baby" on the treetop. Noah froze. He wasn't asleep. His parents weren't in the room. And the voice? It wasn't his. James stormed up the stairs, flashlight in one hand, phone in the other, ready to call the police. But the second floor was empty, dusty, cold. The floorboards groaned under his weight, but there was no one there. No sign of forced entry, no footprints, nothing. Yet the next morning, Noah found a small wooden horse at the foot of his bed. Carved from dark wood, chipped, one eye missing. He didn't own it, his parents had never seen it before, and when James asked the neighbors, an old woman named Mabel, her face went pale. That's one of hers," she whispered. "The little girl who lived here. Before. What happened to her?" Lila asked, voice trembling. Mabel looked away. "She never left." The Turners tried to stay rational. They cleaned the house, repaired the porch, planted flowers to soften the gloom, but the atmosphere never changed. The air stayed cold, even in the height of summer. Lights flickered for no reason, doors opened on their own, and the singing came back. Every night, sometimes it was the same rhyme, sometimes it was different old folk songs, lullabies in languages no one recognized. Noah began having nightmares. He woke screaming, claiming a little girl stood at the foot of his bed watching him. "She's pale," he sobbed. "Her eyes, they don't blink." Then, one afternoon, he disappeared. It was a Saturday. Bright sun, birds chirping. James was mowing the lawn. Lila was inside, folding laundry. Noah had been playing in the backyard, kicking a soccer ball against the garage. One moment, he was there. The next gone. James searched the yard, the shed, the woods behind the house. Lila called his name until her voice cracked. They checked every room in the house again and again. Nothing. Then, as James passed the staircase, he heard it. A giggle, high-pitched, childlike. Coming from the attic. The attic had no stairs. Just a small hatch in the ceiling, nailed shut. The realtor had said it was unsafe rotted beams, risk of collapse. But the nails, they were bent. Pried open from the inside, James grabbed a ladder. He pried the hatch open. Darkness stared back. The smell that rose was unbearable: damp wood, mildew, and something else. Something sweet and rotten, like old fruit left in a closed room. He climbed up, flashlight trembling in his hand. The attic was larger than expected. Dusty, cluttered with broken furniture, trunks and old toys, dolls with cracked faces, a rusted crib. And in the far corner, Noah. He was sitting cross-legged on the floor, facing the wall, silent, still. "Buddy?" James whispered, heart pounding. "Noah? Are you okay?" Noah didn't move. James stepped closer. Then, slowly, Noah turned his head. His eyes were wide, blank, and he smiled. Not his smile. Too wide, too still, and when he spoke, his voice was not his own. "She wants to play," he said. "She says you can stay, if you're quiet." James stumbled back, falling down the ladder, crashing to the floor below. He scrambled to his feet, slammed the hatch shut, and nailed it closed with shaking hands. He grabbed Noah and Lila. They packed a single bag, left everything else, drove away without looking back. The house stood silent once more, but not for long. 2 weeks later, a teenage couple, curious, drunk, looking for a thrill, snuck into the house on a dare. They brought a camcorder, hoping to film ghost evidence for YouTube. The footage was recovered a week later, found in the car, still recording. It showed them entering through a broken basement window, laughing, joking. Then, silence. The camera panned across the dusty living room, the stairs, the walls. Then, a whisper. "Come play." The camera turned. A little girl stood at the top of the stairs, barefoot, in a tattered white nightgown, hair long and matted. Her face was pale, her eyes black, depthless, locked onto the lens. One of the teens screamed. The camera dropped. The last image was of the floor, wood grain, dust, a small bare foot stepping into frame. Then static. Search teams found the car. The bodies were never recovered. The house remains. And every few years, someone new arrives, drawn by low prices, by dreams, by ignorance. They hear the knocking, the singing, the whispers, and one by one, they go inside. Some say the little girl isn't alone up there, that she collects the lonely, the quiet ones, the ones who don't belong, and that once you enter, you never really leave. So if you find yourself in Cedar Ridge and you walk down Sycamore Street and you see that old Victorian at the end, don't stop, don't look, and whatever you do, never go in that house. His last call was screaming. It started with a phone call, not unusual, except for the time. 3:17 That's when Daniel Reeves' phone rang. A sharp, jarring vibration cutting through the silence of his bedroom in the small town of Mill Creek, Oregon. Rain tapped steadily against the window, a soft rhythm broken only by the occasional groan of old pine trees bending in the wind, the kind of night that feels too quiet, too heavy, like the world is holding its breath. Daniel reached for his phone, half awake, eyes bleary. The screen lit up unknown number. He hesitated. At that hour, calls like this never meant anything good. Still, he answered, "Hello?" At first, nothing. Just static. A low hum, like distant radio waves drifting through empty space. Then, a breath, not his, slow, wet, as if someone was breathing through a throat full of water. "Daniel," a voice whispered. His blood turned to ice. It was his brother's voice. "Ethan," but it wasn't right. Not quite. It was strained, twisted, like it had been pulled through glass. "Ethan?" Daniel sat up, heart slamming against his ribs. "Ethan, is that you? Where are you?" Silence again, then a scream. Not loud at first. Just a gasp, a choked cry, then rising, climbing, tearing through the receiver like a blade. Raw. Desperate. The kind of scream that doesn't come from fear alone, but from something deeper. Something wrong. Daniel dropped the phone. It clattered to the floor, still screaming. He scrambled back, pressing himself against the headboard, hands over his ears, but the sound didn't stop. It poured from the speaker, echoing in the dark room, long, agonizing, unending. And then just as suddenly as it began, it cut off. Silence. Heavy, thick. Daniel waited, breathless. The phone buzzed. A text from the same unknown number, "Come get me." Attached was a photo. Black at first, then resolving into an image. A dirt road barely visible under a pale, flickering streetlight. Tall pines on either side, their branches twisted like claws. And in the center, a single car, half hidden in the shadows. Ethan's truck. The license plate was blurred, but Daniel knew it. He'd helped him buy it. Painted the bumper when it got scratched, changed the oil every 30 miles. It was parked crooked, front wheel half off the road. Driver's side door open, and on the ground, something dark. Blood? Daniel didn't call the police. Not yet. He grabbed his jacket, his keys, and ran out into the storm. The drive took 28 minutes. The road in the photo led deep into the Willamette National Forest, past the marked trails, past the ranger station that closed at dusk. He followed the GPS until it lost signal, then drove by memory Ethan had taken him hunting out here years ago. Deep woods, no cell service, no people, just silence. And then he saw it. The truck, exactly as in the photo. Door open, engine cold, keys still in the ignition. "Ethan!" Daniel called, voice cracking. "Ethan, where are you?" No answer. Only the wind, the rain, the creak of trees. He stepped out, flashlight in hand. The beam cut through the dark, shaking with his grip. He scanned the ground, mud, tire tracks, and, yes, blood. Smears on the gravel, drag marks. His stomach twisted. He followed the trail into the trees. Branches grabbed at his clothes. Roots threatened to trip him. The deeper he went, the colder it got, unnaturally so. His breath fogged, even though it wasn't that kind of winter. Then light, faint, orange, firelight. Through the trees, a small clearing. And in the center, a campfire, burning low. And around it, 3 figures, sitting in silence. Daniel froze. They weren't moving, not breathing, just sitting. One in a hunting jacket, one in a flannel shirt, one in a hoodie, hood pulled up, and then the one in the hoodie turned, slowly, too slowly. Its head rotated a full 180 degrees, and where a face should have been, there was only shadow. Daniel stumbled back, flashlight falling from his hand. The beam spun, illuminating the others. They turned too, one by one, all facing him, all with no faces, just smooth, blank skin where eyes and mouths should be. He ran. Branches slashed his arms, roots caught his feet. He didn't look back. Couldn't. When he reached the truck, he dove inside, slammed the door, started the engine. Tires spun in the mud as he reversed, then peeled onto the road. He didn't stop until he reached the police station in Mill Creek. He burst through the door, soaked, shaking, babbling about Ethan, the call, the figures, the fire. Deputy Karen Miles listened, took notes, calmed him with coffee. Then she checked the system. No missing persons report for Ethan Reeves. No record of a truck matching the description being towed. No calls from an unknown number logged on Daniel's phone, except one made by him at 3:17 a.m. to his own voicemail. What? Daniel stared at her. That's impossible. I didn't. She played the recording. His voice. Calm. Flat. Ethan, he said. Come get me. Then screaming. His screaming. Long. Horrifying. Exactly as he'd heard it. But he hadn't made that call. He knew he hadn't. Deputy Miles promised to send a team to the site at first light. Daniel waited in the lobby, wrapped in a blanket, staring at the floor. At 5:48 a.m., his phone rang again. Same number. He didn't answer. It rang. And rang. And rang. Finally, it stopped. Text. You left me there. Another photo? This time, Daniel, standing in the clearing, back to the camera, facing the fire, surrounded by the 3 figures. Except he wasn't wearing the clothes he'd left in. He was wearing the hoodie, and his head, it was turned backward. Daniel screamed. He threw the phone. It shattered against the wall. Deputy Miles rushed out. Daniel, what is it? He couldn't speak. Couldn't move. She picked up the pieces, tried to recover the image, but the screen was dead. You need rest, she said gently. Grief does strange things. Maybe, maybe, your brother's been gone longer than you think. Daniel looked at her. What? She hesitated, opened a file. Ethan Reeves died 2 years ago. Car accident. Off the same road. They never found his body. Search was called off after 3 days. Daniel felt the world tilt. No, that wasn't right. He'd talked to Ethan last week, had dinner with him, laughed about old times, hadn't he? Memories flickered bright, then dim. Faces blurred, dates twisted. Had it been 2 years? Had it been longer? He didn't remember. He couldn't remember. Deputy Miles walked him to a room, gave him water, told him to lie down. He did, but he didn't sleep. He waited, and at exactly 3:17 a.m., his phone buzzed. Not ringing, just vibrating. On the floor, screen dark. But the speaker, a whisper, "You're here now." Then, screaming, not from the phone, from inside his head, and this time, it was his own voice. The search team found the truck 2 days later. Empty. He's in the ignition, Daniel's jacket in the passenger seat, no sign of him, no footprints, no tire tracks leading away, just rain and silence. And in the woods, deep in the clearing, the fire still burned. Low, flickering. Around it, 4 figures, sitting still. One in a hoodie, head turned backward, waiting for the next call, because the forest doesn't let go. And the phone always rings at 3:17. And once you answer, you never stop screaming. Buried alive with her secret. The storm rolled in just after midnight. Not the kind of storm with thunder and lightning. No, this was different. This was the kind that crept in on silent feet. A thick, suffocating fog swallowing the town of Hollows End, Arkansas, like a slow, deliberate breath. The air turned heavy. The trees stood still. Even the crickets had gone quiet, as if they knew something terrible was about to happen. And it had. 3 days earlier, Clara Whitmore had vanished. She was 29, quiet, kind, the kind of woman who brought casseroles to grieving neighbors and always remembered birthdays. She worked at the local library, shelving books with careful hands, her dark braids swinging over one shoulder. She lived alone in a small white house on Cypress Lane, the one with the overgrown garden and the porch swing that creaked in the wind. No one saw her leave. No one heard a struggle. But on the morning of her disappearance, her front door stood open. A single coffee mug sat on the counter, still warm. Her phone lay on the couch, screen cracked, as if it had been dropped in a hurry. And in the backyard, fresh dirt, not from gardening, from digging. Sheriff Dale Mercer arrived within the hour. He'd known Clara since she was a girl. Her father, a retired schoolteacher, had died the previous winter. Since then, she'd grown quieter, more withdrawn, but no one thought she was in danger. Until the hole. It was 6 feet long, 2 feet wide, deep. Too deep for a dog, too precise for an animal. The edges were clean, the soil piled neatly to the side. A shovel leaned against the fence. Clara's, her name, carved into the wooden handle. Mercer's stomach twisted. This wasn't random. This was personal. And then later that afternoon, they found the note, tucked inside the hollow of an old oak at the edge of her property. Written in shaky, looping script on a page torn from a library book. I didn't mean to. But she wouldn't stop crying. No signature, no explanation, just that. And beneath it, a child's drawing. A stick figure woman lying in a hole. Above her, a second figure, faceless, holding a shovel. And in the sky, a single black star. The town whispered. Some said Clara had finally cracked under grief, that she dug her own grave, left the note as a confession, and walked into the woods to disappear. Others believed someone had taken her, someone who knew her secrets. But the truth was worse, because Clara wasn't taken. She was buried, alive, and she took her secret with her. It began with the baby, not hers. Clara had never been married, never even had a serious boyfriend. But the night she vanished, neighbors reported hearing a child cry, soft at first, then frantic, then suddenly cut off. Around 11:37 p.m., one woman, Mrs. Langston, peered through her blinds. She saw Clara in the backyard, wrapped in a blanket, rocking back and forth. Not alone, in her arms a bundle, small, swaddled, and then movement, the shovel, the dirt, the hole. Mrs. Langston called the sheriff at 11:42. By the time he arrived, the yard was empty, the crying had stopped, and Clara was gone. But the baby? No trace. No blanket, no footprints, no record of a missing child in the county, nothing. Yet the note, "I didn't mean to, but she wouldn't stop crying," suggested otherwise. Had Clara found a newborn, abandoned? Had she tried to care for it and failed? Or worse, had she taken it? The investigation turned cold. No body was found, no evidence of a burial. The hole was filled in, tested, nothing. No bones, no fabric, no DNA. Just dirt and silence. But then, 2 weeks later, something changed. At 2:18 a.m., the emergency line lit up, a call from Clara's phone. Dispatch recorded it. At first, nothing. Just breathing. Shallow. Wet. Like someone trying to inhale through cloth. Then, a whisper. Help. Static. Then, a child's cry. Faint. Distant. As if coming from far below. The call lasted 47 seconds. Then, it disconnected. The phone was triangulated still in Hollow's End. Near Clara's house, search teams arrived within minutes. They dug. Not in the backyard this time, but beneath the porch. The wood was rotten, they pried up the floorboards. In there, a space, just big enough for a body, and inside, Clara, alive. She was curled in a fetal position, wrapped in the same blanket seen in Mrs. Langston's account. Her skin was pale, almost gray, her hair matted with dirt, her lips cracked, her eyes sunken. She was dehydrated, malnourished, but breathing. They pulled her out gently. She didn't speak, didn't cry, just stared at the sky with hollow eyes. At the hospital, doctors said she'd been underground for at least 10 days. No food, little water. Somehow, she'd survived. But her hands, they were clenched in fists. When a nurse tried to open them, Clara screamed a raw, animal sound, fighting with sudden strength. Eventually, they sedated her. Only then did they pry her fingers open. In her right hand, dirt. In her left, a tiny pink sock, size, newborn. And inside it, a single fingernail, human, not hers. The sheriff showed her the drawing again, the one from the oak tree. "Clara," he said gently, "who was the baby?" She didn't answer. Just rocked, back and forth, like she was still holding something. Days passed. She began to eat, to speak in fragments. She told them about the night, about finding the baby on her doorstep. A girl, no note, no blanket, just left there, wrapped in a towel, crying in the cold. "I didn't know what to do," she whispered. "No one was looking for her. No missing reports. I thought I could keep her, just for a little while." But the crying never stopped. Not at night, not during meals, not when she rocked, sang, walked. And then 3 nights in, Clara snapped. She didn't mean to. She swore it. But the baby wouldn't stop. And the noise, it filled the house. It echoed in her skull. It reminded her of her father's last days, gasping for air, begging for silence. So she did it. She wrapped the baby in the blanket, took her to the backyard, dug the hole, and buried her. But guilt came fast, too fast. So she dug her up and buried herself instead. "I thought if I took her place," Clara said, voice breaking, "maybe she'd forgive me." She'd crawled into the shallow space beneath the porch, pulled the dirt over her legs, covered her chest, left only her face exposed until the storm came. Then she buried her own face too. Just a small hole hidden under the floorboards for air, and waited to die, to be punished, to be forgotten. But the baby, she still heard her. Every night, crying from under the house. Clara was released after 2 weeks. Psych evaluation. Not guilty by reason of temporary insanity. No charges filed. The baby's remains were never found, no DNA match, no records, no parents came forward. The case was closed. The town moved on, but Clara didn't. She moved out of the house on Cypress Lane, sold it to a young couple from Little Rock, but on the night before they moved in, the husband called the sheriff, said he heard something under the porch, a soft, rhythmic tapping, like fingers on wood, and beneath it, a child's cry. Faint, hungry, waiting. They dug again. This time, nothing. No body, no bones, no sock. But in the dirt, a single word scratched into the earth. Mama. The couple left the next morning, never came back. The house stands empty now. And every November, when the fog rolls in and the wind carries the scent of damp soil, people say you can see her, Clara, standing in the garden, barefoot, holding a bundle wrapped in a stained blanket. Rocking, whispering, and beneath the porch, something breathes. Something small. Something that never stopped crying. Because some secrets don't stay buried. They grow in the dark, in the silence, with every heartbeat and every lie. So if you pass that house, don't listen, don't look. And whatever you do, don't dig. Don't watch this at night. It started with a video, not on YouTube, not on TikTok, not even on the dark corners of Reddit. It came through a private link sent from an unknown account, no profile picture, no username, just a string of letters and numbers. The message was simple. You need to see this. That's what Jason Miller saw when he opened his inbox at 11:43 p.m., sitting alone in his apartment in Knoxville, Tennessee. Rain tapped against the window like fingernails. The city lights outside were dim, blurred by the storm. His roommate was away. The fridge hummed. The air conditioner clicked off. Silence. Too much silence. Curious, Jason clicked the link. The video loaded instantly. No buffering, no preview, just black. Then, a shaky camera view. Indoors. Dark. The kind of darkness that feels thick, like oil on skin. A whisper. Feminine. Trembling. He's still here. The camera panned slowly, creaking floorboards. A hallway. Peeling wallpaper. A child's drawing taped to the wall. A family of 3 smiling beneath a yellow sun. Then, a bedroom door. Slightly ajar. The whisper came again. I don't know how long I have. The person holding the camera, small hands, chipped purple nail polish, pushed the door open. Inside, a bed. Unmade. A nightstand. A lamp. And on the floor, a man, face down. Motionless. Beside him, a pool of dark liquid spreading across the hardwood. The camera zoomed in. The man turned his head, slowly, too slowly. His eyes were open, white, clouded. Not dead, not yet, but something worse. His mouth moved, but no sound came out. Just bubbles of blood at the corners. Then, a shadow crossed the wall. Tall, thin, no face. Just a silhouette, stretching, warping, as if the light itself was afraid of it. The woman gasped. The camera dropped. For a moment, only the floor in view. Dust. A dropped earring. Then, a hand. Pale. Long-fingered. Reaching into frame. Grabbing the camera. Lifting it. Now the view was from the floor, tilted upward. The woman, blurry out of focus, was being dragged backward by her hair. Her legs kicked. Her screams were muffled, as if something was pressed over her mouth. Then silence. The camera stayed on, pointed at the ceiling. A crack ran across the plaster, shaped like a spider's web. Minutes passed, no movement, no sound. Then, a drop of blood, plopping onto the lens, red, thick, then another, and another, dripping from above. The camera tilted, now pointing toward the ceiling. And there, she was hanging, upside down. bound at the wrists with electrical cord. Her hair dangled toward the floor, her eyes were open, wide, unblinking. But she wasn't looking at the camera. She was looking through it at you. Her lips moved, no sound. But Jason read it. He sees you too. Then the screen went black. Text appeared, white on black, centered. Don't watch this at night. Jason froze. His breath caught. The room felt colder, the shadows in the corners deeper. He slammed the laptop shut, heart pounding, hands shaking. It's fake, he muttered. Just a prank. Deep fake. Horror edit. Something. But the woman's eyes, they had looked real. Too real. He opened the laptop again just to prove it to himself. The video was gone. The link? Invalid. No trace. He searched the sender. Nothing. Deleted. Erased. He tried to forget it. But that night, he heard it. A drip from the ceiling. He looked up. Dry. No leaks. But the sound came again. Plop. Like blood. He turned off the lights, got into bed, pulled the covers up. Then, a whisper from the hallway. He sees you too. Jason sat up. The door was closed. He hadn't opened it. He grabbed his phone, called his roommate. No answer. Called 911. The dispatcher answered. Calm? Professional? I think someone's in my apartment, Jason whispered, voice trembling. I heard. Sir, the dispatcher said, your call is coming through clearly, but there's something you should know. Pause. Then, we've been trying to reach you for the past 3 hours. Jason's blood turned to ice. What? What? Your neighbor reported screams. Police were dispatched. When they arrived, your laptop was open. You were on the floor, unresponsive. Jason looked down. His body was in the bed. Chest still, eyes open, staring at the ceiling, and on the laptop screen, the video was playing again. Black. Then, don't watch this at night. And beneath it, a new message. You're already in it. The video resurfaced 2 weeks later. Same link, same message, sent to a college student in Des Moines. Then a nurse in Phoenix. Then a truck driver in Wyoming. Each recipient reported the same thing. The dripping, the whisper, the feeling of being watched. And every time, one of them never woke up. Authorities traced the link, found nothing. No server, no origin, just a dead end. But survivors, those who closed the video in time, spoke of one detail. In the final seconds, just before the screen went black, if you looked closely, you could see yourself in the reflection of the woman's eye, standing behind you, watching, waiting, because the video isn't just footage, it's a doorway. And once you open it, it opens back. So if you get a message, a link, a whisper, a plea, you need to see this. Don't click, don't look, don't even breathe near it, because some videos don't end when they're over. They end when you do. And the last thing you'll hear is your own voice screaming from inside the screen. Voices came from the walls. It started with a whisper. Not loud, not sudden, just there. Like a breath against the back of your neck when you're alone in a room. That's how it began for Marcus Holloway in the old farmhouse he'd bought just outside the town of Briar Glen, Missouri, a quiet place tucked between cornfields and forgotten roads, where neighbors waved from porches but never got too close. The house had stood for over 100 years. Weathered wood, sagging roof, a wraparound porch eaten by time. But the price was right, and Marcus needed a fresh start. He moved in on a Thursday, late afternoon. The sun hung low, casting long shadows across the overgrown yard. The air smelled of dry grass and distant rain. He carried his boxes inside, set up his bed, his couch, his coffee table. Simple things, nothing fancy, just enough to feel like home. That first night, he slept deeply. Too deeply. When he woke, it was 3:08 a.m. And the house was talking. Not creaks, not wind, not pipes, voices. Faint, muffled, as if people were speaking behind thick layers of plaster. A woman's voice, soft, weeping, A child's giggle, high-pitched, sudden, then gone. And a man, low, growling, saying the same phrase over and over. You're not supposed to be here. Marcus sat up, heart pounding. He wasn't dreaming. The words came from the wall beside his bed. The one with the old floral wallpaper peeling at the edges. He pressed his ear against it. Silence. Then, a breath right inside the wall, like something was listening back. He pulled away. It's the house, he told himself. Old wood, settling, pipes, drafts. But the next night, it happened again. And louder. This time, he recorded it. Phone against the wall, audio app running. The recording captured everything. The woman sobbing. I didn't want this. The child, hide me, mama. And the man, you're not supposed to be here. You're not supposed to be here. You're not supposed to be here. Marcus played it back in the daylight. His hands shook. He took it to the local hardware store where old-timers gathered over coffee. Earl, the owner, listened once, then shut the phone off. You shouldn't have moved in there, he said quietly. Why? Marcus asked. Earl hesitated, looked around, lowered his voice. That house, it belonged to the Callaways. Family of 3, lived there for generations. Then, back in the 70s, something happened. No one talks about it much, but the sheriff found them in the walls. Marcus froze. What? Walled up, Earl said. Alive. The parents dead by the time they broke through. The boy still breathing. Barely. He didn't last the night. Why? Marcus whispered. Earl shrugged. Folks say the father went mad, thought the world was coming to end. Said voices told him to hide his family. So he bricked them in, then disappeared. Never found. Marcus didn't sleep that night. He sat in the living room, lights on, every window locked. At 2:47 a.m., the voices returned. But this time, they weren't muffled. They were clear. As if the wall had vanished. The woman, please let me out. The child, I'm scared of the dark. And the man, you're next. Marcus grabbed a hammer. He didn't think. He just moved. He attacked the wall beside the bed, smashing through the wallpaper, the drywall, the wood lath. Dust filled the air, plaster rained down, and then a gap, dark, and inside, a small handprint. Child-sized, pressed into the dust. Fresh? As if it had just been made. Marcus stumbled back. He boarded up the hole the next day, sealed it with plywood, painted over it, told himself it was over, but the voices didn't stop. They changed. Now they called his name. Marcus, from the ceiling, from the floor, from the walls of every room, sometimes one voice, sometimes all 3, sometimes in unison. Marcus, stay with us. He stopped answering, stopped sleeping, stopped eating. He covered every wall with foam panels, soundproofing blankets, anything to muffle the sound. It didn't work. The voices grew louder, more desperate. One night, he woke to the sound of scratching. Not from the walls. From inside his mattress, he tore it open. Nothing. But the voice came again, this time from the pillow. You can't leave, it whispered. We need you. He packed a bag, ran to the door. It wouldn't open. Locked. From the inside, but he hadn't locked it. He turned, and the TV turned on. No power cord, no signal, just static. Then, a face. Pale, sunken eyes. A boy, maybe 8 years old, dressed in old-fashioned clothes. He pressed his hands against the screen. Don't go, he said. We're so lonely. Marcus screamed. He threw a chair through the TV. Glass shattered. Silence for a full minute. Then, a new sound. Dripping. From the ceiling, he looked up. A dark stain spread across the plaster. And then, a drop. Red, thick, blood. He ran to the bathroom, locked the door, turned on the faucet. But the voices came through the water. Marcus, from the drain? We've been waiting. He tore the sink from the wall. Pipes burst, water flooded the floor, but the voice didn't stop. It was in the walls, in the floor, in his head. He called the police. Deputy Lorna Tate arrived. Calm, professional, she searched the house, found nothing. No hidden speakers, no wiring, no signs of forced entry. It's an old house, she said gently. Sometimes they hold on to things. Marcus begged her to stay. She refused. Get some rest, she said. You'll feel better in the morning. She left. At 3:19 a.m., the voices returned. But this time, they weren't speaking to him. They were speaking for him. From every wall, every corner, every vent, his own voice. But wrong. Slowed. Distorted. Saying things he'd never said. I want to stay. I love it here. Don't come for me. He covered his ears, screamed, but the voice kept coming. Louder, closer, then a new sound. Brick, stone, being laid. From inside the walls, he ran to the bedroom. The boarded up hole. It was gone, sealed, with fresh mortar. And in the center, a small, child-sized handprint pressed into the wet cement. Still warm. Marcus backed away. He grabbed his phone, called 911. The dispatcher answered. Help me, Marcus sobbed. They're sealing me in. I can hear them building. Sir, the dispatcher said, voice tight, we've been trying to reach you for 2 days. Marcus froze. What? Your neighbor reported no movement, no lights. We tried to enter, but the doors were bricked from the inside. Marcus turned. The front door. Solid, no handle, just smooth brick. Same with the windows, the back door. Every exit sealed. And from the walls, the voices, now calm, singing a lullaby. 3 voices, one new, his, joining in. Because Marcus Holloway never left the house. And the house never let him go. Now, when night falls over Briar Glen and the wind dies down, locals say if you press your ear to the farmhouse wall, you can hear them. 4 voices, whispering, laughing, building, and if you listen closely, you'll hear a new voice just starting, soft, frightened, saying your name. So don't walk too close. Don't look in the windows. And whatever you do, don't listen to the walls. Because once they speak to you, you become part of the house forever. She lived with a corpse. It wasn't the smell that first alerted the neighbors. Not at first. In the small town of Red Vale, Colorado, nestled between red rock cliffs and dry pine forests, houses sat far apart, separated by gravel driveways and tall fences. Privacy was expected. Silence respected. And so, for months, no one questioned the life of Evelyn Hart. She was 58, quiet, kept to herself. A retired nurse who'd moved to town after losing her husband years ago. She wore long sleeves, even in summer, dark sunglasses, and always carried a small bottle of lavender oil. She said it helped with migraines. She smiled at the mailman, tipped generously at the diner, donated to the church, but she never had visitors. And her curtains were always drawn. The first sign came in early autumn. A delivery driver, bringing a package to her door, noticed something strange. The front porch, neat, swept, flowerless, had a single footprint. Not from a boot, not from a shoe. From a bare foot. Small. Pale. As if someone had stepped out and never stepped back in. He shrugged it off, left the package. But a week later, Mrs. Calloway, who lived 2 houses down, called the sheriff. I heard singing, she said, voice trembling, late last night, from Evelyn's house. A woman humming a lullaby. But it wasn't right. Too slow, like she was dragging the notes. Deputy Ray Torres took the report, drove over, knocked. No answer. Lights were on inside, a faint glow through the cracks in the blinds. He pressed his ear to the door. Silence. Then, a breath, not hers. Deeper, wet, like lungs filled with fluid. He left, uneasy, but didn't force entry. No reason. Not yet. Then, 3 weeks later, the smell came. Not rot, not decay at least, not at first. Just sweetness. cloying, thick, like honey left in the sun. It drifted from Evelyn's house on the morning breeze. One neighbor thought she was baking. Another said it reminded her of funeral flowers. But when the wind shifted, the sweetness turned. Sour, metallic, the unmistakable scent of death. That's when the sheriff returned. This time with a warrant. They broke the lock, stepped inside, and found her, Evelyn, sitting in a rocking chair in the living room, calm, composed, dressed in a cream-colored dress, her hair neatly pinned. She smiled. "Good morning, deputy." Behind her on the couch, a man, lying perfectly still, dressed in a gray suit, hands folded over his chest, eyes closed. His skin was waxy, pale, slightly gray, and cold. Very cold. "He's not dead," Evelyn said, before Torres could speak. "He's just resting." Torres reached for his radio. "No sudden moves," she said softly. "He doesn't like loud noises." The deputy froze, because the man on the couch breathed, not deeply, not normally, but a slow, shallow rise of the chest. Once, twice, every 10 seconds. Impossible. The man had been dead for months. They found the records later. James Whitaker, Evelyn's younger brother, died in hospice care August of the previous year. Cause, heart failure, buried in a private ceremony. Or so the funeral home claimed, but Evelyn had never let go. "He was all I had," she whispered, tears in her eyes. "After my husband, after my daughter, James was the only one who stayed." She dug him up 2 nights after the burial, used her nurse's knowledge, her access to medical supplies, embalming fluid, preservatives, nutrients. She kept him in the basement at first, wrapped in sheets, monitored with old hospital equipment. Then, when she was sure he was stable, she brought him upstairs, put him on the couch, dressed him, spoke to him, fed him broth through a tube, changed his clothes, combed his hair, and every night she sang to him a lullaby, the same one she used to sing to her daughter before she passed. "He hears me," Evelyn said. "He just can't answer." Torres called for backup, EMS, a mental health unit, but when they tried to remove the body, Evelyn screamed, not a cry of grief, of rage. She lunged, clawing at the paramedics, shouting that they were hurting him. It took 3 officers to restrain her. As they led her out, she turned, eyes wild, voice breaking. "He's not gone! He's not gone! He's still mine!" The coroner arrived. Preliminary report. The body showed signs of advanced decomposition, masked by chemicals. Tissue was brittle. Organs had long since ceased function. There was no medical explanation for the breathing. None. Yet, on the security footage from the living room camera installed during the investigation, the chest rose, slow, steady, every 10 seconds for 7 full days, until Evelyn was committed to a psychiatric facility. Then, it stopped. The body was cremated. The house was sold. But the new owners didn't last long. They moved out after 2 weeks. Said they heard humming at night. From the living room, a woman's voice. Soft, broken, singing a lullaby. And sometimes, a second sound. Faint, wet, like someone trying to breathe. From beneath the floor, the house stands empty now. Windows boarded. Lawn overgrown. But on quiet nights, when the wind dies and the stars hang low, locals say you can see a light in the front window and hear 2 voices, one singing, one breathing, together, forever. Because love doesn't always let go. Sometimes it just refuses to admit the truth. And in that denial, death doesn't end. It moves in, it stays. It shares your bed, your meals, your silence. And if you listen closely, you'll hear it whispering from the walls, not of grief, not of madness, but of a woman who never said goodbye, and the corpse she still calls family. Missing teen found in pieces. It began with a backpack, not hers. But it was close enough to make the heart stop at 6:22 a.m. on a damp October morning in the town of Hollows Creek, West Virginia. A hunter named Carl Dobbs was tracking deer deep in the Monongahela National Forest. Fog clung to the trees like wet gauze. The air smelled of moss, rot, and something faintly metallic. He stepped over a fallen log and froze. There, half buried in leaves and mud, was a faded blue backpack. One strap torn, the zipper half open, and inside, a notebook, pages water-stained, ink blurred. But one name stood out, written in looping cursive on the inside cover: Lena Reyes, the missing girl, 17 years old. Last seen 2 weeks earlier, walking home from her shift at the gas station on Route 19. Security footage showed her leaving at 10:48 p.m., hoodie pulled tight, earbuds in. She never made it the 2 miles to her mother's trailer on Pine Ridge Road. No car, no phone, no body, until now. Carl called 911 with shaking hands. Within the hour, the forest was swarming with deputies, search dogs, and forensic teams. Yellow tape cordoned off the area, cameras rolled, evidence bags opened. But the backpack was the only thing found. No Lena, no blood, no signs of a struggle, just the bag. And the notebook? Inside, the entries started normal. School, her job, her dog, Scout, a boy she liked. Then, the last entry, dated the night she disappeared. He's been following me. Not in a car. On foot. Keeps to the trees. I saw him at the edge of the lot. Same place yesterday. Wearing that long coat. Face in shadow. I don't know why he's watching. I don't know why he hasn't stopped me. Below it, a sketch. Crude. Shaky. A man. Tall. Thin. Arms too long. Head tilted. And in one hand, a pair of scissors. Large. Rusty. Like garden shears. The sheriff's department released the sketch, offered a reward, set up checkpoints, but no one came forward. No sightings, no leads. Then, 3 days later, another piece was found. Not of clothing, not of evidence, of her. A hand. Right hand, severed at the wrist, found in a plastic grocery bag left on the steps of the Hollows Creek Methodist Church. Fingers curled. Nail polish chipped pink, the same shade seen in her school photo. And clutched in her palm, a Polaroid. The image showed a dim room, concrete walls, a single bare bulb hanging from the ceiling. And in the center, Lena, alive, bound to a metal chair, mouth taped, eyes wide with terror, but her body, it was wrong. Her arms gone from the elbows down, her legs missing below the knees, and on the wall behind her, written in what looked like blood. Not done yet. The photo was never released to the public, but it haunted the officers who saw it because, in the reflection of the bulb, a figure stood behind her, tall, thin, wearing a long coat, faceless. Holding the shears, the investigation turned frantic. Every cabin, every trailer, every abandoned mine in the county was searched. Nothing. Then another bag, left in the bed of a pickup truck at the high school football field. Inside, a foot, left. Shoe still on, sock pulled neatly over the toes, and in the shoe, another photo, this time only her torso, still in the chair. But now, her head was gone, and in its place, a jack-o'-lantern, carved with a wide, grinning mouth, eyes hollow, and in the reflection, the same figure, closer, watching. The town descended into fear. Parents kept kids inside after dark. Churches held emergency prayers. The diner closed early. Even the old men who sat on the hardware store porch every morning fell silent, eyes scanning the tree line, and then a call to the sheriff's non-emergency line. At 3:17 a.m., no voice, just breathing, wet, slow. Then a whisper, she's still alive. Click, they traced it, a payphone, at the edge of the forest, miles from any road, long disconnected. Yet the call came through. Deputy Karen Miles went alone. She found the phone hanging off the hook, and on the ground, a single Polaroid. New. Lena's face. Pale. Bruised. Eyes open, but not looking at the camera, looking up at something above her. And written beneath it, "Come see." With an arrow pointing deeper into the woods, she followed. Flashlight trembling. Radio silent. For nearly an hour, she walked. Then, a cabin, old, leaning, roof caved in one corner, door slightly open. Inside, lights flickering from candles, dozens of them, arranged in a circle, and in the center, a table, wooden, stained, and on it, Lena, or what was left. Her torso, her head, one leg, the rest gone. But she was moving. Not breathing, not speaking, but her fingers twitched, her eyelids fluttered. And when Miles stepped closer, Lena's head turned, slow, unnatural, and she smiled. Not with joy, with horror, because her lips moved. No sound. But Miles read it, "He won't let me die." Then, a creak behind her. She turned. The figure stood in the doorway. Tall, thin, long coat, face hidden in shadow. In one hand, the shears, rusted, dripping, and in the other, a fresh Polaroid, already taken, of Miles, standing there, back to the table, unaware. And in the reflection, the same faceless man, smiling. She ran, gun drawn, flashlight bouncing. She didn't stop until she reached her cruiser. She called for backup. SWAT. Fire. But when they returned, the cabin was gone, burned to the ground. Ashes still warm. No body, no table, no candles, no Polaroids. Only one thing remained, half buried in the dirt. Lena's left eye, placed carefully on a small stone, looking up, still blinking. The case was never solved. The figure was never found. But every October, on the anniversary of her disappearance, pieces arrive, left on porches, in mailboxes, under windshields. A finger, an ear, a lock of hair, always wrapped in plastic, always fresh, as if she's still being taken apart. And with each piece, a Polaroid, showing more of the room, more of the chair, more of him, closer now, watching, waiting. And in the latest photo, found just last week, Lena's head, whole, eyes open, mouth moving, saying, "He's making room," because they never found her body. They never will, because she's not dead and she's not free. She's still there, in the dark, in the candlelight, being kept, being used, being collected. And one day, when the last piece is found, she won't be in pieces anymore. She'll be whole and waiting for the next one. So if you live in Hollows Creek and you hear a payphone ring at 3:17 a.m., don't answer. Don't look. And whatever you do, don't go into the woods. Even if you think you hear her crying, even if you see a light, even if you find a backpack, because she's not lost. She's unfinished. And the man with the shears, he's not done yet. This town hides a secret. It wasn't the first time someone disappeared in Briars Hollow, Oregon, but it was the first time they came back. Not alive, not dead, just changed. The town sat deep in the Cascade foothills, surrounded by dense pine forests and mist that never quite burned off, even at noon. It was the kind of place where the trees leaned too close to the road, where the wind carried voices that weren't there, and where the local diner, Maggie's Fork, served coffee so strong it tasted like dirt and secrets. Population: 1,247. Everyone knew everyone. Or so they said. But some things weren't spoken of, like the old well behind the abandoned church on Chapel Ridge, or the way the dogs refused to bark after midnight, or the fact that every 7 years, someone vanished. No note, no struggle, no trace. And then months later, they returned, smiling, calm, saying they'd been away for a while. But their eyes, they didn't blink, not like normal people, and they never cast a shadow. It started with Thomas Greer. He was 32, a school teacher, quiet, kind, loved hiking the back trails near Blackroot Creek. One evening, he went out for a walk, never came back. Search teams combed the woods for weeks. Helicopters scanned the canopy. K-9 units tracked his scent until it simply stopped. At the edge of a clearing, no map showed. No body, no gear, no clues, just silence. The town mourned, held a memorial, moved on. Then, 8 months later, Thomas walked into Maggie's Fork at 6:14 a.m., wearing the same clothes he'd left in muddy, torn, but clean, as if freshly washed. He ordered coffee, smiled at Maggie, said, "I'm back." That was all. No explanation, no apology, no emotion, just back. Sheriff Ellen Mays questioned him, checked his story, ran his prints. Everything matched. But something was off. His skin was too pale. Not sickly, just neutral, like a photograph drained of color. His voice flat, monotone, no inflection. And when asked where he'd been, he stared for a full minute, then said, "Below." No one pressed further. Thomas moved back into his house, resumed teaching, but the kids said he didn't laugh anymore, didn't react when they misbehaved, didn't blink when the lights flickered. And sometimes, during quiet moments, he'd stop. Just stand. Stare at the wall. Mouth slightly open, as if listening to something only he could hear. Then, 2 months after his return, another disappearance. Lena Pike, 19, waitress at the diner. Dreamed of leaving Briars Hollow, moving to Portland, becoming a singer. She left work at 9:30 p.m. Her car was found the next morning idling in the middle of Chapel Ridge Road, driver's door open, keys in the ignition. Inside, the radio played a hymn on repeat. Amazing Grace. Static between verses. No sign of her. Again, the search. Again, nothing. Until 6 months later. She walked into the sheriff's office. Same clothes. Same clean, almost sterile appearance. "I'm back," she said. Same words, same tone, and when asked where she'd been, she smiled. A slow, unnatural stretching of the lips, then whispered, "Below." That's when Sheriff Mays started digging. Literally, she visited the town archives, old church records, land deeds, and found a pattern every 7 years. Since 1893, one person taken, returned, always saying the same thing, always with the same dead eyes, and always without fail, within a week of their return, the town would experience what locals called the quiet night. No wind, no animals, no electricity, just silence. And from the forest, a low, rhythmic thumping, like something vast, breathing. Maez went to the only person who might know the truth. Old Man Hargrove, 92, lived in a cabin at the edge of the pines, rarely spoke, never left after dark. She found him on his porch, rocking slowly, staring into the trees. "Why do they come back?" she asked. He didn't look at her. "They don't," he said. She frowned. "What?" "They don't come back," he repeated. "They're replaced." And then softly, "The town gives one, the hollow takes one, and the one that returns isn't ours. What is it?" Hargrove finally turned. His eyes were watery, haunted. "It's a vessel," he whispered. "Empty, waiting, and every 7 years it fills." Mays didn't sleep that night. She sat in her office, reviewing files, photos, timelines, and then she noticed it. In every photo of the returned Thomas, Lena, the others from decades past, there was something in the background, just barely visible. A figure, standing at the edge of the frame, behind a tree. In a window, at the end of a hallway. Tall, thin, faceless, wearing a long coat, and in each photo, it was closer. Until, in Lena's return photo, it was standing behind her. One hand on her shoulder, smiling, with her face. Mays drove to the church on Chapel Ridge the next day. The well was still there. Rusted iron cover, chained and padlocked, a sign nailed to the wood, "Do not open, condemned." She pried the lock off, lifted the cover. Darkness stared back. No bottom, just black. And from below, a breath, cold, wet. Then, a whisper, "We are many." She dropped the cover, sealed it, ran. That night, the quiet night came early. Power went out at 8:17 p.m. Phones died, cars wouldn't start, and from the forest, the thumping, louder, closer. Mays gathered what few officers she could, armed, watched the streets. At 2:03 a.m., the first one appeared, Thomas, standing in the middle of Main Street, alone. Then Lena, then two others returned years ago. Then more. 6, 12, 18, all standing in the road, facing the forest, not moving, not speaking, just waiting. And then, from the trees, movement, shadows peeling away from the trunks, figures, hundreds, all wearing long coats, all faceless, all walking in perfect silence. They passed through the town. No one stopped them. No one could. And when dawn came, the power returned. The birds sang. The cars started. But the people who had stood in the street, they were gone. All of them. Every returned soul. Vanished. And in their homes. Left behind. Personal items. Photos. Jewelry. And one thing in common, a small carved wooden token, roughly human-shaped. Hollow inside, and on the back, an inscription. One taken, one given, the cycle continues. Sheriff Mays tried to leave, but her car wouldn't start. The roads blocked by fallen trees, the radio static. And when she looked in the mirror, her reflection didn't blink. Not for a full 10 seconds. Now, Briar's Hollow still exists. Still quiet, still beautiful. Tourists come in the summer. Hikers pass through. They don't stay long. Something feels off. The smiles are too wide, the silence too deep. And if you walk the woods at night, you might hear it. The thumping from below. And if you're alone and you hear your name whispered, don't answer. Don't turn. Because the town doesn't just hide a secret, it feeds it. And one day, it will ask for you. So if you pass through Briar's Hollow, wave, smile, buy a cup of coffee, but don't linger. Don't ask questions. And whatever you do, don't go near the well. Because the truth isn't buried. It's waiting, and it's hungry. Something watches from the woods. It started with a feeling. Not fear, not at first, just the slow, creeping certainty that you were no longer alone. That's how it began for Daniel Reeves in the quiet town of Pines Hollow, nestled deep in the dense forests of northern Maine. A place where winter lasted 6 months, where cell signals vanished like breath in the cold, and where the trees stood so close together they seemed to whisper secrets when the wind moved through them. Daniel had come for peace. After years in the city, endless noise, endless stress, the slow unraveling of his mind, he bought a small cabin off Black Spruce Road, a one-room retreat surrounded by pines, a stone's throw from a frozen creek. He wanted silence, solitude, a chance to breathe. He arrived in late October. The leaves were gone, the ground was hard, the sky hung low, gray and heavy. The first night was quiet, too quiet. No crickets, no owls, no rustling in the underbrush, just the creak of old wood and the occasional groan of the wind pressing against the roof. Daniel lit a fire, read a book, fell asleep by 10:30 p.m. He woke at 2:17 a. to silence. Not peaceful. Wrong. The fire was out. The the room was cold, and the window fogged, but not from the inside, from the outside, as if someone had pressed their face against the glass. He sat up slowly, heart thudding. The cabin was dark. The clock ticked once, twice, then stopped. And then a breath, not his, long, slow, dragged through the air like cloth over stone. From the other side of the wall, outside, Daniel grabbed his flashlight, peered through the window. Nothing, just trees, snow-dusted ground, shadows. He opened the door, stepped onto the porch. The air was still, no wind, no sound, but the snow, it was untouched, except for one thing. 20 yards into the tree line, a single set of footprints, leading in, not out, as if something had walked into the woods and never come back. Daniel didn't sleep the rest of the night. He sat by the fire, gun on his lap, eyes locked on the tree line. At dawn, he followed the tracks. They didn't lead far, just deep enough into the woods to where the trees formed a perfect circle. No animal trails, no broken branches, just a ring of pines standing like sentinels. And in the center, a stone, flat, gray, carved with symbols Daniel didn't recognize. And on top, a dead crow, neck twisted, eyes gone, left like an offering. He backed away, ran back to the cabin, locked the door, boarded the windows. But that night, it came closer. He heard it first, a slow, rhythmic tap, like a branch against glass. But it wasn't a branch. It was a knock. 3 times. From the front door, Daniel didn't answer. He watched through a crack in the boards. Nothing. No figure, no shadow. But the doorknob, it turned slowly, then stopped. And from the other side, a whisper, not in English, not in any language he knew, but he understood it. I see you. The next morning, he tried to leave. Car wouldn't start. Battery dead. Phone no signal. Radio static, except for one station, faint, repeating the same phrase in a child's voice. Don't look outside. Don't look outside. Don't look outside. He stayed for 3 days. No power. No heat. Food running low. And every night, the knocking, the whisper, the feeling of eyes on the back of his neck. Then, on the 4th night, he saw it through the window. At the edge of the trees, tall, too tall, 12 feet, maybe more, thin, limbs like snapped branches. No face, just smooth, bark-like skin where features should be. And its arms, they dragged on the ground, long, knotted, ending in fingers too many, too thin, like roots. It didn't move, didn't breathe, just stood, watching. Daniel dropped to the floor, trembling. When he looked again, it was gone. But the next morning, the stone was on his porch, the crow gone, and the symbols, now carved into the door, deep, fresh, as if done by hand or claw. He tried to burn it. Fire wouldn't touch it. He threw it into the creek, found it on his pillow that night. And then the dreams began. Every time he closed his eyes, the forest, the circle of trees, the stone, and it standing in the center, surrounded by others, hundreds, all faceless, all watching. And in the dream, they stepped forward, one by one, into the cabin, closer, closer, until one leaned down and whispered, "You're already inside." Daniel woke screaming. The cabin wasn't his. The walls were wrong. The ceiling too high. The door open to the forest. No road, no car, just trees. Endless. And from the shadows, eyes. Hundreds of them. Glittering. Unblinking. Waiting. He ran. Through the woods. Branches slashing. Roots tripping. No path. No direction. Just the feeling of being herded. Then, a light. A cabin. His cabin. Smoke from the chimney. Lights on. He sobbed, stumbled forward, banged on the door. "Hello, please, let me in." The door opened. And there, him, standing in the doorway, same clothes, same face, but the eyes, black, empty, smiling. "You don't belong here," the other Daniel said. And behind him, the thing in the corner, watching, Daniel turned and ran back into the woods. He never stopped. Search teams found his footprints 2 weeks later. They led in a perfect circle, back to the stone, back to the crow, back to the trees. And at the center, a single boot, mud-caked, laces untied. And beside it, a journal, last entry written in shaky script. "It doesn't